All right, is everyone ready? Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Mike Donovan. I'm the United States Attorney for the Western District of Tennessee. With me before you, starting on my right, is Deputy Chief of the Memphis Police Department, Michael Hardy, Deputy Director, Memphis Police Department, Mike Ryle, DEA Group Supervisor here in Memphis, Jarrett Bevel, DEA Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Brett Pritz, and to my left, District Attorney General Amy Wyrick, Chris Rogers, Assistant Special Agent in Charge for ATF, Dwight Jones, United States Postal Inspector, Chief Inspector Terry Tate with the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, Special Assistant United States Attorney Joseph Griffith, and Criminal Chief Assistant United States Attorney Beth Boswell. In a law enforcement operation known as Operation Grapes of Wrath, yesterday our office unsealed an 11-count indictment charging 16 individuals of a drug trafficking organization with ties to the Grape Street Crips gang here in Memphis with various violations of the Federal Controlled Substances Act, including the following counts: conspiracy to possess with the intent to distribute 50 grams or more of methamphetamine, conspiracy to possess with the intent to distribute 1 kilogram or more of heroin, possession of fentanyl with the intent to distribute, possession of heroin with the intent to distribute, and conspiracy to possess MDMA, also known as ecstasy, with the intent to distribute. At least one other named defendant in this indictment was charged with being an unlawful user of controlled substances in possession of 2 firearms and multiple rounds of ammunition in different calibers. 14 of the named defendants are from Memphis. 1 defendant is from Jackson, Tennessee, and 1 defendant resides in Los Angeles, California. The defendants range in age from the youngest at age 23 to the oldest at age 41, and several named defendants are confirmed members of the Grape Street Crips gang, and others charged have significant connections and ties to the street gang. The various conspiracies alleged to be engaged in by the members of this drug trafficking organization overlapped in time, and some members of the organization are alleged to have participated in multiple conspiracies to possess and distribute different types of illegal narcotics into and throughout the South Memphis area and in the Nutbush area here in North Memphis. The investigation of this case focused on the Grape Street Crips, as I've said, and the ATF began investigating various shootings in the Memphis area in the summer of 2018, last year, and together with DEA and our other law enforcement partners developed multiple suspects connected with drug distribution here in Memphis, specifically large amounts of heroin and methamphetamine. Our additional law enforcement partners from the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Division, the Memphis Police Department Organized Crime Unit, Bartlett Police Department, and the West Tennessee Drug Task Force all joined in this investigation to provide crucial resources and coordination that ultimately led to this indictment and what we believe is the dismantlement of a very active drug trafficking organization here in Memphis and Shelby County. Agents made arrests during a takedown operation on July 25th, and currently 12 of the 16 named defendants have been taken into custody, have had initial appearances and detention hearings here in U.S. Magistrate Court. If convicted of the conspiracy to possess and distribute 50 grams or more of methamphetamine charged in count 1, all of the defendants are charged in that count, and they face a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years in federal prison and a maximum sentence and up to a maximum sentence of life and a $10 million fine. In count 2, which involves the conspiracy to possess and distribute heroin, that carries the same potential penalties, mandatory minimum 10 and up to life. Counts 3, 4, 5, and 6, which involve the possession of fentanyl, heroin, and MDMA, the charged defendants face up to 20 years imprisonment for each of those counts and a $1 million fine. And the charged defendant on the firearms and ammunition offenses faces a maximum penalty of up to 10 years imprisonment and a $250,000 fine on each of those. Again, like last week when we talked about the Fast Cash organization, I want to point out how harmful these gangs and these drug conspiracies can be to our community. Drug trafficking offenses are not victimless crimes. Distribution of meth, heroin, and fentanyl causes death, and contributes to addiction and violence in our communities every day. We think this investigation and indictment will effectively dismantle this drug trafficking organization and hopefully save lives. As long as organized crime and drug distribution conspiracies by street gangs continue to threaten and harm our communities with addiction and violence, we will continue to aggressively prosecute those organizations for any and all violations of federal law. Gang members and drug dealers should by now be on notice, but if you aren't, hear this warning. Your continued lawlessness will earn your name on a federal indictment and will secure your future in a federal prison. At this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to Assistant Special Agent in charge for the DEA, Brett Pritz, and after him, Shelby County District Attorney General Amy Wyrick will make some remarks. Agent Pritz.
Good morning. My name is Brett Pritz. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for DEA in Tennessee. Before I begin, I want to thank United States Attorney Donovan and our law enforcement partners standing beside me here today for their partnership in this investigation and for their dedication to drug law enforcement. Complex investigations, like this one, requires joint efforts and extensive collaboration to be successful. And DEA is proud to have been part of the partnership that brought this case to a successful conclusion. DEA is committed with our law enforcement partners to dismantle the criminal organizations responsible for devastating our communities through drug trafficking and violence. This investigation is just an example of our commitment to the Memphis community to rid the area of violent gangs and drug traffickers, threatening the safety and well-being of the citizens that we serve. Thank you.
Every one of you in this room, I would hazard to guess, knows someone who has died from a heroin overdose. Every one of us in this community is touched by these deadly drugs. And to echo the words of Mr. Donovan, if you don't get it yet, if you don't understand what the hundreds of men and women who each of these men and women standing up here today represent, come to work focused on doing every day, it is to find you, arrest you, and bring you to justice so that no one else can die because of you, because of the drugs that you have trafficked and distributed on our sidewalks, in our schoolyards, and in our communities. We are fed up. The billboards have it right, and the message couldn't be clearer. We're tired of the guns, we're tired of the deadly drugs. There are many different levers that we can pull, and the Grape Street Crips is a gang that has been on our radar for some time. And those of you that have been around for a while know that we, several years ago, filed a gang injunction against the Grape Street Crips because of their activity in the Tillman area. And they were doing then what they are accused of doing in this indictment, dealing drugs to the children in our community. So whatever levers we can pull, we are going to pull until you have been found, until you have been handcuffed, until you have been provided every right that you are provided under both the state and the federal Constitution, and until you are held accountable for your actions. I can't leave here without thanking our own Joey Griffith. Joey actually works for your district attorney's office. He is on our payroll, but he comes to work here every day in the U.S. Attorney's Office because that's how important this is to us working together. And you might wonder why we do that. Because the federal prison sentence is real. There's no parole. If you get 10 years in the federal sentence, you do 10 years. And that's how important this work is to us as an office and to all of these partners that are represented here today.
Like I've said before, we want to thank all of the law enforcement agencies who are gathered here for their coordination, their cooperation, their resources that they bring to the table. You can see, again, we have it across all areas, whether it's ATF or DEA, U.S. Postal Inspection. We have our drug task forces here, and of course our local law enforcement. And that's all crucial for us to bring these investigations to a head, to indict and arrest 16 people this week, We took out 18 last week. So within a week, 34 gangsters indicted and off the street. And we're just getting started. We're going to keep coming. You keep selling drugs, you keep pulling triggers, we're going to keep coming. I'll be glad to take any questions that you have now.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the previous injunction against the gang in the Tillman area and kind of detail a little bit more about that?
Well, I didn't mean to get us all sidetracked, but it's a reminder that there are many different levers that we can and we do and we will pull against these gangs. And so a couple of years ago, we filed a gang injunction in the Tillman, Binghamton area against the Grape Street Crips and the Vice Lords. And what those gang injunctions do is it sends a message to the gang members. If you're named in this injunction, you cannot stand outside. 2 or more of you together is not allowed, because when 2 or more of you get together, something bad happens. They are very labor intensive. They are the work of our multi-agency gang unit, gathering the evidence, bringing the cases before the environmental court judge, and then law enforcement is sent out to serve the gang members. Nobody's arrested. They're just put on notice that when you all hang out in the community, nothing good's happening. You're not delivering Meals on Wheels. You're delivering drugs to our children, and we're tired of it. So this gang just happened to be part of that gang injunction work that we've done over the years.
And DA Wyrick, you talked
Yes.
a little bit about,
Sorry.
with these drugs, obviously,
Mhm.
comes violence and guns. Is it time right now, looking at the national level too, to talk about at a state level the access to high-powered weapons?
Well, the access to any type of weapon by those who want to do harm is my concern every day. It is a growing concern given the freedom that people now have in our state to travel with guns in their cars. It causes issues. We're seeing it with this case. We see it every day. But it is guns of any shape or size in the hands of those who want to hurt us. That is my focus.
And the gang members you already mentioned in the previous injunction, are those the same ones that were involved in this, or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me follow up on the firearm question. So as part of this indictment, 2 counts involve possession of firearms and ammunition by a prohibited person under federal law. And we use that statute quite frequently here in Memphis and Shelby County and across West Tennessee. One of the top priorities of our office in the Department of Justice has been to focus on violent crime, specifically violent crimes committed with firearms in the hands of prohibited people. I have said more than one time at this podium, we want to take the guns out of the hands of dangerous and prohibited people and those people off the streets because they're dangerous and they're violent. We've gotten pretty creative and we're using that statute thoroughly. The one you're most familiar with is obviously convicted felons may not own or possess a firearm or ammunition, but that also includes people who've been convicted of prior misdemeanor crimes of domestic violence. That includes drug users and people addicted to controlled substances in possession of firearms, which is part of this indictment. That includes illegal aliens who are in possession of firearms, and other people who are straw purchasers who purchase or buy or obtain firearms for prohibited people. So we have reached out, and really our partners at ATF has really helped us with this, and we've identified those people who are in possession of those, and we're adding that as substantive counts to every indictment where we come across firearms or ammunition in the hands of the wrong people.
Where do you believe the drugs are coming from? Do you believe they're coming from the Memphis area, or do you think they're coming from out of state? Or do you have any
Well,
indication?
we don't grow the poppy plant here in Tennessee. So it is clear that heroin and some of those opioids are, in fact, the source of supplies outside of this state. One of the individuals indicted in this case is from California. One was from California last week in that drug trafficking conspiracy as well. Let me just say this, that here in West Tennessee, we are a logistics hub of the country, right? Interstate 40 and Interstate 55 intersect right here in Memphis. FedEx Corporation, the largest international shipper in the world, lands planes out here every day where narcotics, unfortunately, are trafficked through the United States Postal Service and through private parcel shippers. There are a lot of sources of supply of narcotics that are coming into West Tennessee from outside of West Tennessee. And one of the great things that we have the ability to do with our partners at DEA is we can reach across those state lines and across those geographic boundaries and identify, gain intelligence, investigate, and ultimately hold them responsible for the trafficking of drugs from other places into Memphis and West Tennessee. And in fact, you see that as part of our charge here.
And how long has this operation been going on?
Summer of last year. And in fact, this began as a result of an investigation on the Grape Street Crips organization by ATF as a result of some recent shooting events, some shooting violence. And ultimately, we developed these suspects who we also found were engaged in large-scale drug trafficking. Every dangerous and deadly drug you can think of, they're involved in, is included in this indictment. Methamphetamine in large amounts of it, heroin, large amounts of it, fentanyl, ecstasy. They're running the gamut because they're businessmen, and they don't care if they make money on the pain and suffering and death of other people. And there's a reckoning for that, and that's what we're announcing today.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the gang? I know they have roots to LA. Is it several members you said you mentioned are from the California area, correct?
All I can say about the organization is that here in the Memphis area, they're known as the Grape Street Crips. They are a street gang who engage in violence and drug trafficking. That's known. They are a national, if you want to say that, a national brand of gang. But it really doesn't matter to us. You see these hybrid gangs, you see these groups of people getting together. In fact, as I mentioned in my statements, several of these defendants are not confirmed members of the gang, but rather are associates and connected in some way. And so they don't discriminate in the way that they do their crimes, and so we won't discriminate much when we indict them because they're all involved in this conspiracy together.
Do you know what area or what part of town they've been generally?
Yes, as I indicated, primarily this activity was located in the South Memphis area as well as the Nutbush area here in what I've been told is North Memphis. All right, thank you all for coming.